Welcome, Wastelanders, to the attraction of tomorrow. To a Disneyland where you can kill Mickey Mouse. To a Jurassic Park where you're encouraged to touch the dinosaurs. It's a tomorrow where your every whim is catered for, as long as that whim is a little gross and you're, very rich. Well, how is that indifferent to the 1%ers of today, right? I guess, really, that's where Fallout likes to operate. The satire, that is, a different colour of paint on the bus you already take. Call me an original Iron Man, because it's a wonder I can move it all. This episode we watched 1976's Futureworld. Welcome all to Pod Never Changes. It's a Fallout Movies podcast. I am your host this week, Ricky, and with me as always, joining me, it is... Wait, no, could it be? It is, or is it maybe not? I can't tell. Is it a duplicate? Let's see if we can tell by, as in this movie, kissing to figure out, are you really LJ? It's LJ. How are you doing this week?
It's me. I swear it's me.
That's foolproof, right? Just a little quick make-out. That's how you know someone's your doppelganger or not, or a doppelganger.
The lips don't lie.
Very good. Okay, so this is Pod Never Changes. It's a Fallout Movies podcast, as I say. What we're doing is, in a world where we have Fallout fandom, we have the games, we have movies and all these things. Sorry, we have TV shows and all these things. We are looking for a decent Fallout movie, a decent Fallout movie analog, really, is what we're looking for. So, when you're watching a movie and you go, oh, that's just like in Fallout. Yeah, we do that all the bloody time, so we decided to talk about it here. Great, so we're going to do that by watching movies. We're going to score and rank them, and then we're going to try and discover what is the most Fallout movie we can find. This episode we watched Futureworld, a sequel to Westworld. We'll talk about that in a moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to rank it, discuss it, and then we're also going to try and find some time to talk about maybe our Fallout history, and maybe also talk about things like mods and thoughts, and how is this movie in general as well. So, LJ, you usually got a question for me each week talking about Fallout.
Yeah, so I kind of want to take it back a little to some of the earlier episodes where we were discussing just our more general thoughts on the games, but somewhat specific to the movie in mind. So what I was wondering is, like, of the, I guess, enemies, but also NPCs they can be, which of the non-human, humanoid beings in Fallout are your favorites as enemies, as NPCs? So I'm talking super mutants, ghouls, synths, robots. What do you feel about each of them? What's your favorite? Why?
So NPCs, so they've got to be able to have some sort of dialogue
or they can be as enemies, either or.
But I guess you can't. So like a Deathclaw can't, because it's not really an NPC. It's just
exactly. And it's not. I wouldn't say it's humanoid in the same way.
Well, true. Yes, not humanoid. Yeah. There's something I quite like about ghouls, because no matter where you are in Appalachia, Boston or whatever, they all sound like they're from the 1940s Bronx. And there's just something about that I quite enjoy. And I know they've been ghoulified, and like their vocal cords are deteriorating or something. But they just sound like 70 a day kind of guys.
It's that vocal fry. Yeah. The voice box is deteriorated.
There's even... who is it? Hang on. Do you know Harvey Fierstein?
I don't know.
Actor, playwright. He's a very 90s looking guy. Like, he's known for, like, I think maybe the Torch Song trilogy, which was a play that he started and kind of made his bones with. He is, in Independence Day, Jeff Goldblum's friend at the office.
Yeah, I kind of recognize his face vaguely, but
do you know the voice? Darling. That's the voice, and
he's very ghoulish.
That's the voice of a ghoul. There's an episode of The Simpsons, I think, where he does a voice there as well. But it's for me, it's just like,
observe this. I love it. I am nature's greatest miracle.
That voice, and it's something I just really like about ghouls. Is
what about
Harvey Fierstein voices that they have? Sorry.
So I feel like that's quite like an aesthetic element of it, right? Like the what about in terms of, I guess, what appeals to you about Fallout and how that thing fits into it? I feel like the answer could be ghoul again. I feel like for me as well, it's number one.
So outside of the aesthetic, I think something that I like about ghouls is there's a horror element to it, right? As well. I think when you're first playing. I was thinking about this recently I remember the first time I played out Fallout 76, and there's the Scorched, right? So there's ghouls, but then there's the Scorched, and the Scorched are a bit more like a hive mind kind of ghouls, but they're a bit more human-like, but they're kind of not. Right. And they're like partially petrified people. But what happens is you first see petrified versions of them that you walk over and they crumble to dust. And then there's a point where you walk over to one and it's not quite petrified, it's just frozen, and then it jumps into life. And you're like, oh, shit, sweet Jesus. And I feel like with ghouls, because you have the feral ghouls, and then you have the non-feral ghouls, which I guess are the ones that I like, that you have that distrust of them. And I think they're a good social metaphor, I guess. I think, like, if I think about them politically, that they're always whether it be for you don't trust us because we're different type thing. So it could be for race, it could be for sex and gender or whatever. They kind of have this thing, but then they do play around with it where they have communities where they thrive, and then they also have ones where people are saying you're prejudiced. Like there's one of them where there's a building and you convince people that they're okay and you should let the ghouls in. And they come in, and then you revisit it like 24 hours later, and all the residents are dead because the ghouls killed them. So it's this thing of like it kind of plays hot and cold, I guess, with its politics on it. But I kind of like that kind of aspect to it of like they're a good idea. And I don't know like when they first came in. So like there's been feral ghouls since. Since
the first game, they've been there.
So feral and non-feral, right? Have they always had those?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, like I really like the idea that was quite thoughtful, the idea of ghouls and ferals and non-ferals. So I kind of
I feel like in any kind of non-horror game, ghouls have been the thing that have jump scared me the most in like metro tunnels and the subways and stuff. What about just to bring it more specifically to the movie that we watched? How do you feel about the implementation of synths in Fallout 3 for late 76?
The problem with synths is that there's no. It's pure sci-fi. It's not horror, right? So it's it like with the ghouls. There's like there's worries with I guess they're not NPCs, but with like death claws or I also say Yao Gao. Do you say Yao Gao or Yao Gao?
I actually have never known how to pronounce it.
I've never heard it out loud.
Yao Gui.
I've never heard it out loud. I've only read it, so I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like the Jake Gyllenhaal thing where you've never heard somebody say it, so you just kind of take a punt. But yeah, like they're scary when you approach them. You're playing these types of things. But with the simps, you get the stress playing of like, oh no, they're going to kill me. But there's no kind of shock or horror element to them, and I think there's an interesting part, and I think I was going to mention this maybe later, of when you have simps and you have doppelgangers. I remember there's the one with is it Art in Fallout 4 where there's a random encounter and there's two people with the same face and they're like, and you like, which one do I choose? Which one's the real guy? And then you can kill one of them or let one of them with the gun kill the other one, and you can check if they've got a synth component or not.
Yeah,
and it's like I guess.
Yeah,
I
think it's
no
kind
paranoia.
of.
I don't get the paranoia. It's like the playing the game. It's intrigue, but there's no feeling of paranoia or anything like that with it. The character has it. The characters get it. The world has it, and the world tells you that they have it because you have that random encounter. And the first time you go to Diamond City, there's a guy saying he thinks he looks like my brother, but it's not my brother. And you have that, but I don't then play the game being like, is this guy a synth? Is this guy?
I think it's a really good point, because I think, like you're saying with ghouls, the way they are depicted in game and the way that you experience them is kind of one-to-one. Whereas, with synths, it's not. And I think Fallout 4 probably could have benefited maybe from being a bit more... because it was already a game where they were trying to impress upon the player a little bit more of a guided experience to a certain degree. You know, you've got a voiced protagonist, you've got a child that you're looking for. I think the synth story maybe could have had an element that penetrated the gameplay a little bit and the feel of the game a little more. I think you're definitely right about that. And I think another element is just like, it's a game engine type thing as well, because the ghouls lend themselves very well to like that kind of rapid, janky movement. Whereas I think what I would have liked to see with the way synths move, maybe, or certain types of synths perhaps, is a bit Terminator 1, you know, where you've got the stop motion, T8, I think it's the T800 in the first one, is it? You know, the stop motion animation, exoskeleton, metal skeleton version of the Terminator. That's very creepy, but it's because it moves in a janky way, whereas in a very sort of slow, janky way, which doesn't really happen with the way in which, you know, Bethesda have kind of got the physics programmed in the game. So
who's the guy with the pompadour in Sanctuary?
Oh, I can't remember. No,
you know who I mean, right?
I know.
Is it Sturgis?
Yeah.
Is that
off the top of my head? I can't remember. It's a very unmemorable character to me.
You see videos online where people are like, there's like, oh wait, if you do this and this, and then maybe you kill him or whatever. At a certain point, he has a component, and I'm like,
right, yeah.
And it's oh right, okay, that doesn't affect me at all.
Did you hear the theory that the player is a synth? Have you heard that one before?
I haven't heard that one, no.
So it was based on, I think the origin of it was in the opening section of the game when you come out of the cryogenic freezer, you're able to use VATS, but you haven't actually got the Pip-Boy on yet, and the Pip-Boy is what enables VATS. And so the theory was that that's like an internal Pip-Boy, an internal VATS system that means that you're a synth.
Wait, but do other synths have VATS?
We don't know, but there would be no, if that was intentional, there would be no explanation as to why you have VATS prior to having the Pip-Boy on. However, Bethesda did confirm that that was just an oversight and a mistake.
Right. Is it?
Or is it? Yeah. Which I kind of liked that theory. I was like, that could have been cool, but yeah.
But again, like if it turns out it was, it's just like, okay, well, it doesn't really...
Yeah, it's a nice little trivia point. It's not...
No, but then again, maybe if it was more explicit, I'd be playing the game like a synth and more sinister.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be like, well, you know, I'm trying to take over the world, so it doesn't matter if I kill people. Anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
That's it. Are you ghouls as well? So you're ghouls?
Yeah, I'd definitely say ghouls. I think in every sense, the NPC side as an enemy, I think they're just top notch. They're, yeah.
Yeah, boy. Okay, so LJ, before we kind of recap and review the movie, why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Okay, so Futureworld is a sequel to Westworld, 1976. Sci-fi genre film. I've seen it listed as a cyberpunk sci-fi. I don't know if it kind of rings true of that definition for me, but I can kind of see it, I guess, in some sense. But
I don't see enough of it as cyberpunk.
No, because I kind of associate cyberpunk as being like an aesthetic as well, and it doesn't really have that aesthetic, but maybe just by virtue of having, you know, robots, maybe that qualifies, I don't know. Directed by Richard T. Heffron, so not the same director as Westworld, which was Michael Crichton, I believe.
Michael Crichton? Did he direct it?
The first one, yeah.
Do you know Michael Crichton? He wrote the book. He wrote Jurassic Park, which this.
Yeah, that's the. I know him as an author. That's the. Yeah.
That's interesting. because like you're letting an author direct. It's like when Stephen King directed his own. I think he only directed one of his own movies, right? Did he direct? What's the one with the trucks or the cars that come to life? No, I'm not talking about Christine.
Yeah, I vaguely remember him having directed
Maximum Overdrive.
That's it. Yeah,
I just remember the I just remember the reference in art.
That's becoming sentient. Oh God, that's how Maximum Overdrive started.
This is how Maximum Overdrive started.
Was that off the back of him not being happy with The Shining?
I think it's off the back of him taking a lot of white drugs.
Allegedly.
No. He will tell you. He will tell you.
No, I know.
Yeah. But sorry, I just wanted to say that was interesting because if Michael Crichton directed it and did he write the book or did he just write a screenplay for this? But he then wrote Jurassic Park, right, which is basically about a theme park that goes wrong. Yeah,
it's kind of funny because I actually in my notes for the movie referenced Jurassic Park, so that's kind of an interesting note. But so this one was directed by Richard T. Heffron, so not Michael Crichton, who didn't really want to be involved with the sequel.
And again, with sorry, like with the Yao Gao, you say Crichton. I've been saying Crichton this whole time. Am I mad?
Wait, I thought you said Michael Crichton. I said Michael Crichton first.
I thought I said
We've gone senile. I'm sure I said Crichton and then you said Crichton and now I've corrected to Crichton.
I think I'm losing confidence.
Yeah.
Michael C.
Yeah, Michael C.
There we go.
So yeah, he directed Westworld, but Richard T. Heffron directed Futureworld. Not really done anything that I'm aware of. I can list a few of the movies here. La Révolution Française.
Nope.
V, The Final Battle, which I think is
TV show, right?
Yeah, is it? Yeah, it looks like it is.
It was aliens come to Earth. It's a bit like
I've seen the original and the remake actually,
like
but
lizards,
I guess this was
right like lizard people, and they were like,
exactly that's it. I guess there was like a little movie, but yeah, nothing really of note that I've seen. I don't know if you've got it up in front of you if there's anything there, but I'd not heard of him. Haven't seen any of his other movies, so
they're not looking. Yeah. A Whale for the Killing. Guilty of Innocence. Danielle Steele's No Greater Love. Wow. No, I don't know any of this. No, North and South rings a bell. North and South was North and South also a TV show? I swear this is. I remember.
Are you sure you're not thinking of North by Northwest?
Well, no. I used to work at a HMV years ago, and it's the kind of DVD I'd see on the shelf that never moved. It was just like, what's North and South? But anyway, I do not know. Billy D. Williams was in it, but he's so far down the list. And Patrick Swayze. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Jonathan Frakes. Ooh.
You're just listing names now.
Sorry, Jonathan Frakes he's next gen Star Trek. Come on. Anyway.
Well, you're gonna have to dip into that, I think.
Well, I might have to. Sorry. Anyway, hang on. I'm curious about the I, the Jury poster. I quite like that. The cops, the mob, the broads. Everyone's after Hammer. Detective Mike Hammer. Oh, shit. I'm going to have to add this to my list. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm now like curious about some of this stuff. Yeah, I like the I, the Jury cover. That's about it. Then there's the ones at the bottom that like sort of TV films.
Yeah,
I would imagine. But yeah. Anyway, so Futureworld is starring Peter Fonda of the Fonda family, Blythe Danner, and then Yul Brynner does turn up. It's not really starring him, but he turns up in a sort of cameo dream sequence. We've got a budget of $2.5 million. and a box office of, what do you think it pulled in? 2.5 million in 1976.
It's a sequel. Original director right is not attached.
The original Westworld did quite well.
Do you know what the original Westworld did? I'll compare it to that.
Let me see. The original Westworld had a budget of 1.2 million, so half the budget, and it pulled in 10 million at the box office, which
I'm going to go 8
decent.
million. 8 million.
No, half that. 4.2 million. So it made a profit, I guess. I'm imagining the marketing budget wasn't that huge with that.
Is the general rule the marketing budget? If you're talking about the production budget, you just 2x. So
but I feel like that's a modern thing.
It is.
I don't feel like that would apply then, and certainly not to this film. I don't think so. Maybe it just eked a budget, eked a profit. From a critical reception point of view, Rotten Tomatoes, where are you thinking? I feel like this always betrays your thoughts on the film.
See, it's funny. I was watching it, and there's parts where I really enjoyed this. I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but I kind of enjoyed bits, and then there's bits where I'm just like, well, they just fill in time. You know what I mean? Like it kind of goes between being pedestrian and being kind of intriguing. It's like in like like I think it's an era thing as well. Like just for the time of like if you watch like the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or whatever we called it back then. It's like there's little things where like, oh, they're eating something and something special happens, and I feel like it's mostly there to fill time, and like we've got a budget to play around with effects, so we're going to play around with effects. This girl is going to turn blue and bloat, right? We're going to do that. These guys are going to float, and I kind of felt like it was doing that a little bit here at times of stuff. But it was sort of related to the plot, so I feel like that's usually an indicator of people being like, "This is not intelligent." So I would say critically, I'm going to go 60, and I think it's a sequel, and it's not as good as the original, probably. So I'm going to go double 60, 60% both tomatoes and critics.
No, way worse. I feel like you always go around the 60. On the cusp.
Next time I'm going to be like, 100.
Yeah, I want you to commit to it being shit.
I think it was a little underwhelming. I'm trying to guess people's reactions to it.
It's pretty on par though. Like you went 66 on each. It is similar on each. It's just 31% and 29%. So pretty rough. It's pretty rough on IMDb as well at 3.3 out of 10. Which is pretty low. Like you don't see low ratings like that on IMDb. I feel like IMDb tends to hover like the scale is like between 5 and 7, and like for most movies, and unless it's exceptionally good or bad.
It's a strong opinion.
Yeah,
I think it's basically movies are. If you look at IMDb, every movie ever made is mid, unless you've got a strong opinion, right? And then it's like if it's really bad, it might be really bad, or people are just really angry about it.
That's where I feel like Letterboxd is a little bit better in terms of I feel like it does seem to like, the scale varies a little bit more, I think, in terms of the quality. But on a Letterboxd it's 2.8 out of 5, which is not so bad. But
it's not too bad. Essentially 5. Sorry, 3 out of 5. Right?
So not super well received critically. Few little points around the film, kind of relates to what you were talking about really, in terms of filler or like being able to just do stuff. It was the first major film to use 3D CGI, which is kind of interesting. There's like a shot of a hand or something that is
it not when they're
a 3D model?
Well, I guess we'll talk about it later, but it's basically just when there's people in a lab and they're like, remember to pay attention to the face, and there's a bad 3D image of a face, and you go inside.
Yeah, I think it's definitely body parts for sure.
Yeah,
I think there's a hand in there, and I think possibly the face. Yeah. And then the only other thing is just it kind of relates to the production of the movie. Like I was saying, it was the sequel to Westworld, which done fairly well, was well received. They kind of, I think it was MGM that sort of turned the film to external, production distribution companies because they weren't super interested. And like I said, the director didn't come back. None of the cast really came back apart from Yul Brynner for a cameo. And it was because MGM had already hit their quota for the year of sci-fi movies, which was a quota of 1. And that was Logan's Run. But related to that, they used an apartment set from Logan's Run and sort of redressed it as the bar in Futureworld.
You know what's interesting is I always associate Westworld and Logan's Run.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's I saw them at a similar time or it's because I think there was again talking about like movie releases and working in a bloody HMV. They were re-released on a same week on Blu-ray or DVD or something. But I always associate them together. That's interesting. And then, but like Futureworld was like, no, we've got Logan's Run. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I've not seen it.
Logan's Run?
Yeah.
Do you like random gratuitous boobs?
Yeah.
Do you like the idea of being like you have to die at 30, dude, because this world is brilliant without you? It's fantastic.
Interesting.
I mean, I say it's fantastic. It's shit.
Well,
maybe
I've always liked the cover of it. It kind of reminds me of like the Beatles or something. Like, do you know what I mean?
I always like the end. I like the end. There's something about the end of it which I really like, and I won't spoil it here. But there's just the end and the idea of maybe it's a Fallout movie. Is it a Fallout movie?
Maybe we should just randomly watch it as a Fallout movie and just see.
Well, we might run out. The thing is, right, we might run out and then we'll be like, the colour purple.
Yeah.
What's next? Then we'll be like, it got a 12.
I feel like it would
Why am I
be
surprised?
It'd be a good testing of the rating system to just see if you throw in a random movie how Fallout it ends up being. But yeah, that's a little bit about Logan's Run. No, it's not about Logan's Run. That's a little bit about Futureworld.
Can I mention, right? So while we're talking about it as a non Fallout movie, but we'll get into that later. But just talking about the background of it, the reason why I chose Futureworld, I think, and why I added it to the list is it's kind of got the synth element about it, right? So we know that it's about robots replacing humans or pretending to be humans and these types of things. But it's also, and I guess we could do the same for Westworld, is that the Westworld TV show was produced by Jonathan Nolan, who then produced the Fallout TV show. Yeah. And so I'm curious to see whether in the Fallout TV show, if there were things that were influential from Futureworld, and I could see those in that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And I'll jump ahead and say I didn't see anything. I was a little disappointed, but that was kind of my thought if we're talking about the legacy of Futureworld, because the Westworld TV show was based on Futureworld and Westworld combined. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so when we rate this movie and we score this movie, we're going to rate it using our GRATE. LJ, you remember our GRATE system? We use it every week.
We do indeed. It's burned into my brain.
How about I tell you about it just in case you forget? So the GRATE system is a bit like the special, like in Fallout, where you're able to attribute things and score them and so on and so on. So when we're talking about GRATE, we are talking about G, genre, R, random specifics, E, the environment, A, aesthetics, and T, tribes. So this is how we're going to score it. So the idea here is that when we're recapping the movie, we're going to say, we spot something and it's very Fallout and it relates to, for instance, genre. Genre being the direct or referenced Fallout genres, plot points, and quests. So if we were watching a Western, we'd say, great, this is really Fallout because it's a very much a Western at times, right? Or if you're saving a family member from somebody who's kidnapped them, right? These are very kind of Fallout. And so we go, there's a point for that and there's a point for that, right? So that's the idea. We're doing the same for random specifics. So those are very specific things that are just very Fallout, like perks and dialogue and gameplay mechanisms that don't fall into our other categories. We are then talking about environment, as I say. So this is world building lore and locations. So again, if it was a Western, think about the location of a Western, but also we're thinking about we're also thinking about wastelands. We're also thinking about apocalypse, right? In post-apocalyptic environments. So that's the kind of the environment. It could also be very specific places that are like, wait, I spotted that place. That's exactly like in Fallout. And there might be a couple in this movie. Aesthetic. So that is more about, say, inventory items, right? Things that you find in your Pip-Boy, so to speak. It can be items, it can be clothing, sounds. It can also be things though, like gore, though, and humor, like the aesthetic. Things that when you're watching and thinking about Fallout, it's not necessarily plot, it's not necessarily character, it's the aesthetic, right? So you can also be thinking about if you see pre-war food, right? Or you hear country music, or maybe you see an exploding body, that type of thing. We're also thinking about T for tribes. So these are groups and individuals that populate the movie. Are they distinct groups that we see in Fallout? Are they broadly like, do they act like raiders? Or are they actually called raiders? You know, these types of things. Are there devious underground agents? Are there, for instance, robot doppelgangers trying to replace humans? These are what we talk about when we talk about tribes, right? You know, it could also be that is there a dog companion? These types of things. Those are tribes. So again, we are talking about genre, the random specifics, the environment, the aesthetics, and the tribes. And what we do is for each of these points, so for each of them, we have a cap of 6. So when we're recapping the movie and we say, oh, this relates to genre, we give it a point. This relates to genre, we give it a point. It can go up to 6 points maximum for genre, then up to 6 for random specifics, and so on and so forth. So the idea here is that there's a maximum of 30 points that any movie can score on the Great Score. We also then think about things that are not very Fallout. So we can give it a debuff. If we think about when you drink booze in the game, you get a plus for strength, but you get a minus for intelligence, right? These types of things. We're also given debuffs for things that aren't very Fallout. We always cite Road Warrior, so that's Mad Max 2. There's so many Fallout things in that movie, but the fact that there's constantly car chases, there's no cars in Fallout, man, that move. So it gets a -1 for that, right? So we're thinking the same. What do we spot here? That could also get a debuff. And that gives us our final score.
That's not like loads of different things, right? Like it's generally like 1 or 2 in a film, if not.
Yeah. And I feel like, for instance, we had a debate, and I think about debuffing of watching a movie that had constant threat of sexual violence. And I think it was Tank Girl. And I think we debated, and I guess you'll have to listen to the Tank Girl episode to figure out whether or not we accepted that debuff. But whether or not there's always violence in Fallout, but is there a threat of sexual violence ever? Well, I guess you have to listen to the episode to see what we thought about that debuff. But that's the kind of idea. When we see things that we think, is that Fallout? Is that not very Fallout? Is that very anti-Fallout? And we can give it a minus and so on. So great, we're scoring it up and we can give it some minuses down. We get a maximum of 30 points and then we rank them. That's how we look at the Great Score.
Okay, yeah. Tell me about the movie. Let's walk through it.
So we start. It's a very 70s looking thing, despite it being some. Actually, wait, hang on. Is it set in the future? Do we have? Is this contemporaneous to the 70s and there's robots, or is it in the future? I'm guessing it's in the future.
That's a good point, actually. I don't know. I would assume future, yeah.
Yeah, it's still got a very 70s look to the point where we open and there's a game show and a guy. We later learn he's called Ron, is winning a prize, and whether he's winning a game, it's got some giant dice, and he wins a trip to Delos. Do we say Delos or Dallas? Dallas sounds like Dallas. Delos. I'm going to say Delos.
It does, yeah. I think Delos, yeah.
Delos.
I'll say Delos.
Think of Disney park, right, with different worlds and places, except it's populated with robots, and they're basically there to make you happy and satisfy your whim and have fantasies, right? And we learn about this later.
It's not a point, but the opening sequence did kind of like give me a little bit of Fallout energy, just the sort of cheesiness and American element of the game show. But
that's right. Game shows are very kind of retro American, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But the guy's very happy. He's told you're going to win. You're going to go to Delos, of which Futureworld is one of the worlds there, right? Like that you get like a Disney World where you have different areas. I've never been to Disney World. Anyway. There's a great line where they talk about what you can do there.
Treat for the senses, where beautiful robot women are yours to command and robot gladiators die at the point of your sword. Or medieval world, an exact reconstruction of 13th century Europe, where you may live like an absolute king. Or spa world, a garden of pleasure, where old age and pain have been eliminated. Or future world, where you will be transported throughout the solar system, commanding your very own rocket ship, enjoying the favors of robot women of weightless beauty, soaring through space like an astronaut.
This is the 70s, I guess. This is their mores. Okay, so after we have that intro, we go into the credits, which is just a close-up of a human eye. There's credits, and then we see what looks like a guy waking up on a table, and then they zoom into his eye, and then it's an eye within an eye. I don't know, it's kind of fun. I think that was Peter Fonda, wasn't it, with his beautiful blue eyes on the table?
I'm not sure. I'm just looking at it now.
So great. So we see Peter Fonda playing, I think he's called Chuck Browning. I'm just going to call him Browning, but people call him Chuck at a certain point. I'm just going to call him Browning. He's a journalist. He's a journalist at the newspaper. He's at the office. He receives a call from a guy with a story for him. The guy is called Frenchie. He mentioned that Browning covered the trouble at Westworld or something a few years ago, so I guess he knows about what happened there. They agree to meet. We then cut to Browning trying to meet Frenchie somewhere, and Frenchie, when he finds him, immediately falls to the floor, and his dying words are Delos. He also has like an envelope with him, that's like a brown envelope stuffed with something. We don't see anything about this until later. So then we now cut again to... Okay, so he's attending a meeting. There's a guy named Duffy. He's talking about what previously happened to Delos and how they had no idea how it happened and so on and so forth. But he's from Delos, Duffy, and he's trying to convince that, yes, despite 50 guests dying and 95 technicians were killed with robots, they couldn't disable the power supplies because they had reserve energy and all these things. And they're trying to convince everybody what's going on, what happened, and it's also just a way to recap Westworld if you've never seen Westworld. There's robots.
Which is kind of, it's kind of funny because they're watching it on a TV.
Yeah, they're watching the movie Westworld on TV,
which makes me laugh. Yeah, because it's like, where did they get these angles from? Like, I get that obviously it's a kind of Truman Show-esque like sort of setup, so they've got cameras, I assume, but it's some of them look like that you wouldn't have a camera there.
Yeah. You wouldn't have a camera there and edits and zooms, but fine.
Yeah.
So this is also where we see them talking about robots, and what we're seeing are basically what looks like people and humans. So we're learning that there's robots, but they look like humans, but they're robots. Okay, so Duffy basically says that the guys at Delos, they were shocked but not deterred. They invested a lot of cash, like it was like $1.5 billion back in the 70s, I guess. So that's a heck of a lot of money. They wanted to fix the issue. Duffy tells all these people in this meeting, so we learn that it's basically the assembled media, that business is actually not so good since they've reopened, and because there's a memory of the disaster. So he's inviting the media here to an Access All Areas event where they're going to be shown Delos and the different worlds and how it's actually really super safe. Yes, Michael Crichton wrote Westworld before he wrote Jurassic Park. This is basically the same thing, right?
He wrote it before. Okay, interesting.
Wait, did he write it before? Either way, he wrote these together.
It's so funny though, because I literally have a note that says this setup is very Jurassic Park sequel logic, in the sense that, the park has resulted in a disaster the first time round, resulting in death and destruction, and then somehow that park remains open and people just continue going to it.
But this time, we're safe. The idea, right?
But you know what? The funny thing is that these things, I feel like, have just aged very well. Because I feel like, we kind of would.
That's interesting. So, two things. One, talking about great scores, the aesthetic of this conference room is these TVs that they're watching in the middle of a boardroom. I kind of thought that was kind of had that aesthetic. And then also the robots looking like humans. That's clearly the first point for them being synths, right? Gem-free synths.
Yeah.
I then wanted to ask, is this prescient, or is a consciousness and the cynicism of capitalism something that was around in the 70s, do we think, as well?
I don't think the cynicism existed in the same way, no. I think it kind of was, you get very sort of similar criticisms of certain symptoms that we now associate with capitalism that I think they associated with, like, you know, this is just the breakdown of American society. So, for example, there was a line around how nobody reads anymore, you know, and
we'll get into that in a minute as well. Yeah.
So it's just like that. Yeah, it kind of angles to the same kind of thing, but from a different perspective, I feel like.
Same trajectory, different starting point.
Yeah.
So we now have Browning is in a what's like an executive office for the whatever media giant conglomerate he's working for. Browning is a newspaper guy, and he's there with Tracy Socks Ballard, played by Blythe Danner, and they're arguing with like whoever the CEO is or whatever. This guy promised Socks an exclusive. Browning is invited in because he has an angle on it. So I guess something to do with Frenchie. He doesn't explicitly say what it is. Socks storms out and Browning follows her. Socks is TV, Browning is newspaper. Socks calls him an ink slinger and says no one reads anymore. So you're right. Like, that's kind of the idea of that. You've got TV. TV is where it is, not this stupid newspaper.
Yeah, exactly.
We also learn that she's nicknamed Socks because they slept together previously and she wore, quote, outrageous red socks. This is when I stopped calling her Socks in my notes, and I will stop calling her Socks here because I just feel like that's really bad behaviour on Browning's part.
Yeah.
So she's now Tracy in my notes and going forward. Just being like, calling her Socks in front of everyone is like fucking gross. Yeah. Quick question. Do we think the world that we're seeing so far, based on media and based on these two characters, is it pre-war Fallout? I don't feel like it is. To me.
No, I didn't think so. It's I think that the aesthetic is a little too 70s.
Yeah. Very much.
Yeah.
So we're now on the plane to Delos. There's some very 70s stereotypes here. There's a Japanese executive who brought his sword onto a plane. There's the drunk guy Ron who won the game show at the beginning. There's kind of like African princes. There's Arabian oil sheiks. There's a Russian general in his uniform still while he's flying. It's very 70s, like the stereotypes we got here. These are wealthy. This is what wealthy people look like. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And I got a note here. The game show winner Ron is being a bit gross with women. Okay.
Oh, yeah, he's like full on, like horned up.
Yeah.
Horned up dude. Yeah.
But does he have a wife with him later? I don't think he does. I think just another woman. They happen to be in the same room. But like, he's just a bit grim. So they arrive and they're being monitored and surveilled by security. They're taking a lot of details of them. Like, it's flashing on screen who they are, and there's codes next to them and stuff. There's a guy called Duffy who greets Tracy and Browning and tells them, hey, you can spend a couple of days in the park and then we'll go behind the scenes and you can see whatever they like. Just a reminder, they are journalists. They're there for a story. They can't go anywhere they like, but they can be shown anywhere, is kind of what they're saying. It's like, no, you can't. That'd be dangerous to just go anywhere. But if you want to see something, we'll take you. Okay, a little suspicious, but whatever. While they're there, they kind of get costumes for their specific worlds. They're going, of course, to Futureworld. Like the Japanese executive, I think we learned is called Tamaguchi. He's going to Medieval World. The Russian guy goes to, I don't know what world he goes to, but for some reason there's hallucinations where he's in that world. I don't know, it's mad and weird, who cares?
I think there was Future World, Medieval World, Roman World.
Roman World. He wasn't, because he was dressed like a bloody hussar or something.
Yeah, there wasn't. Yeah, there was another one.
Yeah.
Well,
it was.
That's where that guy was going.
I think the Russian guy was going to 60s uniform world. I don't know. Because they're like, great, and now put hallucination in. And
I think that one was like, I don't remember what it was called, but it was like relaxation worlds, something like that. Like, yeah.
Don't look very relaxed. Anyway, so they get costumes. They kind of have these quilted spacesuits. I made a note. Spacesuits are often in Fallout, but these weren't. They're usually a bit more retro-futuristic. These were just very 70s.
Yeah. Shall I put it down for now?
Let's mention it, but I'm not feeling it myself. So because they're going to Futureworld, that's why they've got spacesuits. There's a little bit of role play involved with all of this, right? The idea is like, yeah, you're going to fly there, and you're going to go to a space station. It's all simulated and fake, but that's kind of the idea. That's what you're paying for, the simulation. And like that's the idea of like, there's robot women and men, and they're going to throw themselves at you. So you kind of know what you're paying for. That's the idea. There's a bit of role play. There's fun, whatever. So, I mean, they get the thing of, they got as they get to the shuttle, which I thought was quite impressive looking in this as well, of like, there's a giant door that opens up because it's like a blast door, because it's going to take off. So
yeah, and I did have that down as, is the shuttle, is that before or after the little monorail that they... Yeah, I think it's before. It's after, right? Like the little monorail.
It might be after, yeah, because they get in their costumes and they're on a monorail, and so there's the Futureworld costumes on a monorail, and then there's like Romans and other people and medieval people in their little uniforms all getting off a monorail.
Yeah, so I had a couple of points there of like the monorail, and as they're opening up into the shuttle, there's the monorail reminds me of New Vegas. There's a monorail that goes. From I think it's like the NCR. There's monorail pops up a couple of times, but I think it takes you from one location to another.
Fallout 4, I think you get a monorail to the Nuka World.
Yes. Yeah.
Do we call it an add-on DLC? Did you call it DLCs then? But yeah. There's that kind of thing as well.
Yeah. So I had that down as a random specific, and I thought that the way the door opens to the rocket reminded me of the vault door opening.
I guess so. It doesn't slide like it does and roll over, but it's big and it's like a vault, right? And it locks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So for me, that was like an aesthetic thing.
Yeah, that's an aesthetic. I'd definitely throw it in there. Okay, there's a little bit of jokes here where basically, again, it's a simulation and role play. So they're like with a countdown, there's like, press this, and the idea is they're meant to just be pressing whatever buttons they're told to press, like it's a fun thing. This is recurring for me. I don't think it's not really Fallout related, but I just thought it was weird how the entire time they're like, yeah, it's like a simulation. It's like you're doing it, but the entire time they're also told it's meaningless and fake. Like the guy's going to say, press the air button, and you press the air button. Right, and then there's Ron, who's there as well, and he's getting stressed. And he's like, "This is meant to be a vacation. Why am I doing all this stuff?" But it's just like it clearly, and it's like it's not. They're not taking off. They're not flying. It's just a simulation.
Hello, space shuttle.
Hello, Houston.
Not receiving
Houston.
you. Please switch to alternate channel.
Houston, this is
39.
me, Ron.
Hello, space
Hello.
shuttle. We are
Hello.
not receiving you.
Hello, anybody? Anybody? Oh, Jesus.
And later on, there's a part where a woman is saying to a robot, I'm too old for like kind of this kind of sexy stuff, and he's like, I'm programmed to find you attractive. And it's like, isn't that kind of taking it out?
Yeah.
Shouldn't he just be trying to convince you like he's rizzing you up or something? Like,
it's a bit of immersion breaking. It kind of, the way you describe it as well, with them just like pressing buttons and stuff, I feel like it feels a bit childish,
good job,
I guess,
guys. Yeah. We're really taking off. Those buttons meant something. Yeah. Yikes. Anyway, I did like, though, whilst they're there, they are talking to like what looks like a ground control, right? Like a control room, but it's the theme park control room. And I don't know if that was intentional. They're on a spaceship and they're on a radio going, what do I do next? What happens? And the guys are like, great, increase the vibration settings on their seats, so they think they're taking off, right? They're giving these instructions. So it's like, it's an interesting, like how it's a parallel to, there's a control room, like this is that impressive and like that what they're doing, but it's got nothing to do with them actually taking off. They're just thinking that they are, but that's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so So we now get to see some other guests as well in their own worlds. Mr. Tamaguchi is sword fighting a Saxon knight in the medieval world. The Russian general is having a fake hallucination that they programmed somehow in whatever world that was. There's a nervous science guy in a white lab coat. He comes in to see Duffy, and he tells Duffy, you're spending too much time in the control room. But Duffy insists, these are very special guests. I'm sure that doesn't mean anything. Anyway, so in the medieval world, Mr. Tamaguchi brought a camera. He wasn't allowed to do that. And so the control room says, we'll get the Queen to steal it later. Interesting about their security, how people aren't really allowed to see anything. The science guy in the lab coat is Dr. Schneider. He goes to another control room. So the regular control room has guys in yellow coats that look like they've won like a golf tournament or something. And then like the other guy that the room that Dr. Schneider goes to, they all have white lab coats. So there's different control rooms, people controlling different things. Anyway, they're monitoring the guests as well, but they're looking super close at images of their faces and like scans, and they're like looking at their ears and all these details and stuff. It's weird. It's probably nothing, right? It's probably nothing. Anyway, Schneider then goes to the robot repair, where we see some scientists making repairs to robots. This is an example of filling time, because he just goes in there and we're looking at people with like a computer circuit board glued to their stomach. You know, it's just like we need to show that these are robots, and it's maybe 4 minutes of him just looking at stuff, and then there's a guy and there's a fake arm over here. I think this is just trying to impress the audience, which doesn't really quite work.
It's kind of true, yeah. It's this sort of stuff I feel like is very commonplace in I don't know, pre-90s maybe, let's say, cinema. You get a lot of like, oh, we can do this, so that we show it. And the thing is, I don't mind it. I kind of like have just retro fitted that into, you know, what I expect from the films, but it'd be weird to do that now. I feel like it doesn't happen in the same way now. It's filmmaking's very like economical.
I was watching, I think it was on an MST3K episode, there's a Time Travelers movie, and there's a point where, like this, they're like there's full of androids, and they're just showing you like with some campy it might actually be a good Fallout movie. There's some campy music playing while they're showing you them repairing and assembling a robot, and it has no impact on the movie whatsoever, but it's just, we just need to show you some special effects. Or they're like, hey, how are we going to feed people when we go on our rocket later? And like, hey, we've got these instant oranges. And so we see them with an orange tree that just goes boop, and it just, it produces an orange, and the guy eats the orange, and it's just like, what has this got to do with anything? Like, it's got absolutely nothing to do with anything. And so like, it's just like, this is that kind of thing of like, I think it's critically people would dislike it, and I think it's just I don't even know if it's trying to build a world, right? His robots. We've seen robots. We know they're robots. We don't need to see this junk. Yeah. Anyway, it's too much of it anyway. Okay, so the Futureworld guests, they've arrived somewhere in space, right? So they've got this different space uniforms on. They had white gear. Now they're socializing, so they're wearing yellow space outfits, which was an odd choice. It's maybe a space station, I think, that they're on, because they're some people are like, hey, let's do some spacewalking or whatever. They're playing some holographic chess, which was kind of fun, but also kind of really lame. Ron, the game show winner, tells us he's going to go skiing on Mars. Another guest is being solicited by a robot. She tells him he's too old. He says he's programmed to pleasure her. And again, I think I mentioned here that like it kind of breaks the illusion, surely. But anyway.
Of their choice.
Why can't you?
Because I'm too old for it. I'd feel like a fool.
Not at all. You must remember that I've been programmed for your pleasure. In my eyes, you are very beautiful.
I think they mentioned they're paying $1,200 a day or something like that, or $12,000 a day for this. And it's like, come on, you can do better. You can do better with your sex bots. Come on. Okay. So Browning, while he's there, he starts his little bit of investigating. He goes to the bar. He goes to the bartender and he asks him, "You've got a great memory, right?" Yeah, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm a 500 model or whatever." And he shows him a photo of Frenchie, who is dead, of course. And he says, "Do you recognize him?" And he says, No, I don't recognize him. I think he mentions, like, is he resting or something? It's like, because it's a picture of Frenchie, but he's dead. And and he kind of leaves the photo of him, and he goes back to Tracy, and then he comes and he goes, and then he's like, oh, I forgot my photo, and he goes back, and then the robot's like, I gave you back the photo, and it's like, oh, that's interesting.
Bartender?
Yes, sir?
That photo I showed you earlier, I forgot to get it back.
Oh, no, sir. I gave you the picture back.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Oh, yes, sir.
You're a liar.
No, sir. I'm not programmed to lie.
Well, for a man without a program, you do a pretty damn good job.
You know,
I think that was the first moment of like, oh, okay, this is kind of intriguing.
Yeah.
I think it's my favorite element of the film is that kind of like the mystery and the intrigue and espionage that's sort of going on.
Because like I bet like how the robot's saying like, yo, I'm a robot. I'm not really here on a space station. I'm a robot and I'm programmed to pleasure you, lady. He's like going, I'm programmed to not lie. And it's like, hey, you've kind of spoiled it for me there, dude. But also like, it's like, oh, he's saying he cannot lie, but clearly he is, because we saw him leave the photo. He disappears, he comes back and it's like, well, I gave you the photo. I don't have it. I can't lie. So it's interesting how we're kind of seeing like how there's either autonomy or they are programmed to say they're not lying, even though they are. Okay, Duffy shows up. Again, Duffy's the kind of the guy that's introducing them to Delos, and he's kind of them. He's the guy who wants them to convince them that it's safe. It's safe. He's the Hammond. The like in Jurassic Park parlance, he's Hammond. He's there to try and convince them that it's all good. Okay, so Duffy's there as well. He just kind of says, great, well, let's take you on some behind-the-scenes stuff, I think. I'm pretty sure he said let's do it after a couple of days, but he's doing it like after a couple of hours or whatever. Who cares? This is a question to ask. Do we think in this movie, and it relates to synths, are the robots here, are they in on the wider mission in terms of they have intelligence and autonomy and they are bought in? Or are they programmed for it? And does that happen with synths? Are synths conscious and they're like, this is the mission. This is the mission. Or are they a case of, I am programmed to do what the Institute tells me?
So I think that's kind of a central question thematically within Fallout, and I think also within the Westworld TV series, because
they escape, right? That's kind of the point of the underground, right? The railroad, whatever they're called. It's like it's,
and so I think they're the illusion.
Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, they're the illusion is definitely that they've got some kind of consciousness. I think in here it's not. In the first film, it is. I think it's a thing, right? It's definitely a key element of the plot. I think here, it does feel like they are just kind of under control. And they are just, they're, at most, maybe they are, they're not in on it, but I think that they are being nudged in the direction in which, the big dog wants things to go.
Well, it's interesting because we're also introduced, and I think that's in a minute as well, is that we're introduced to different models, a bit like with synths where you have different gens, right? So you have Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. And the Gen 3 are the ones that are out replacing people. The Gen 1s are like the little scrawny boxes or whatever. So, interesting. So Duffy and Schneider, they're in the regular control room with the golf kind of looking guys. And Tracy and Browning, they're just kind of looking around and poking around. Browning asks Tracy to pick out a guy from the control room and get him interested in you, like flirt with him and stuff. And she's just like, I'm not, why? And he's just like, then he kind of convinces her by being like, you do know how to flirt still, don't you? And so she's like, okay. Which I thought was cheesy and anyway. She goes and hits on a guy and he's just ignoring her and he's just like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And I think the idea here is that Browning's like, I knew it. These guys are robots in the control room because they're not interested in the woman and they're programmed to not be interested. I kind of thought that was obvious, but it kind of had a reveal. And Schneider and Duffy are like, oh, didn't we say that? These are robots as well. They're the new 700 series, I think he says. And they said, basically, humans were a contributing factor to the massacre that happened previously. So we got rid of the humans here. So it's just all robots and they're better. They're the new 700 series or whatever. So after that point, Duffy takes Tracy and Browning to Westworld, which is now kind of closed down. It's interesting because like the whole world is closed down, but some of the buildings have boards on the walls. Like, why did you need to do that? Nobody lives nearby. But anyway, I just thought it was a funny little aesthetic. So he's trying to show them like, yeah, this is, we'll show you this. You know, it's closed down, everything's fine. And Browning's like, can I take a little walk around? Yeah, sure. Tracy's there talking to Duffy, and Browning takes a little look around. He finds a little underground tunnel. He goes underneath. It kind of has that underground boiler room kind of look where there's pipes everywhere and there's stairs and white concrete corridors. He's kind of aware about how much time he's taken, so he kind of turns around and runs back after a while. But he knows he's onto something. We then also see a guy with a perm watching him from afar. It's probably got nothing to do with it. Two things. One, boiler room and those steps. That's very Fallout. Like those are Fallout 3, Fallout 4, maybe New Vegas. When you go into a building and it goes underground. Sometimes it's bunkers. It looks exactly like this, right? Like it's just pipes and then it's just a concrete wall and steps, I think. So I think environment-wise, I think we got that down there. Underground something. I wanted to ask, based on like this scene and based on the way Browning and Tracy are kind of working and talking together. Do you get... I never really noticed gender politics in Fallout. Every so often there's a bit of chauvinism, right? But there's never really that much gender politics. Like you'll get the leader of a raider gang and it's a woman and it's nothing about it. You'll get, who's that cartoon Irish pit fighter in Fallout 4 who becomes a companion?
Oh, yeah.
Can't like that. Yeah,
I had to replay Fallout 4, actually. It's been a while.
But like in the combat zone, it's just like, yeah, she's just a fighter and she just beats up other raiders. Like, it's funny how like there's not a lot of gender politics unless it's overtly a chauvinist or something.
Yeah, and I think we kind of talked this, we've mentioned this before about race as well, same kind of thing. And I think that's very much an intentional RPG world type of choice to kind of just make it blank slate. Anyone can come in and you know, play as they would want, as whoever they are.
I think when everyone's fighting for their lives, I think they kind of get over a certain amount of kind of things like gender and race, I think is the idea.
Yeah, it ends up just being like, you know, the ghouls end up being a stand-in for us as an audience to kind of explore the idea of like racism.
Yeah, and simps to a certain extent, I guess, as well. I wanted to ask, do we think then, maybe this is a point for later, is overt gender politics like this a debuff?
I don't think so, no. I think it's not like a prominent thing throughout the film. Like it's not like a theme of the film, I would say. I'd say it's kind of like standard fare for this sort of era.
It's a recurring behaviour though.
Yeah, but I think it's just a recurring thing of like films from this period in time, really.
Yeah. Women are there to be manipulated. Oh, okay, cool. I guess that's not a strong female character, I guess, to a certain extent.
No.
In fact, the strongest female character is the Tracy doppelganger robot. Sadly, was it is.
I had Westworld itself. The aesthetic of Westworld is very Fallout New Vegas, like Good Springs, you know, kind of Western town, right? Like, set in a desert. Looks, exactly like Good Springs, basically.
Yeah, I'd buy that. Yeah, it's I guess it's a Western. World. It's Westworld, I guess. I'd buy that. Okay, so we now see Ron again. He's somewhere in Futureworld, and he's trying to figure out which of the two sex bots he wants to sleep with. Schneider is then back in the white coat control room, the secret control room. They're clearly building robots, and I can't tell if the movie's... if we're ahead of the movie at this point, like if you're a viewer, a modern viewer versus a previous viewer. But I think it's quite obvious what's going on, right? Like they're building robots, They're being secretive about it. They're clearly going to be building replacement robots for the guests, right? The guests are here. They're building new robots. But like it's being a little coy about it. Like they're just saying, great, remember to capture this information and do this. So that's kind of what's happening. And I think as a modern viewer, that's immediately what you suspect. We also hear over the lab radio that the subjects, so all the guests, they've been given something in their food. I think it might even be saying there's something in their food. Like they're very vague about it. But what's happening is the guests, so that's the Russian guy, maybe Tamaguchi, and then also Tracy and Browning. They're all sleeping. They're all passed out, and some basically lab guys show up in big red suits, like kind of like contamination suits. But they pick them up out of the sleep. They take them to the labs. They start prodding them and poking them. And there's computers. There's some black screens with green text. That's very Robco, I thought. They're doing stuff, and they're being told you've got 1 hour left, you've got this time left, and so on. And the idea is that they're being prodded and scanned and all the rest, and then they're returned to their beds, and they wake up, and they're none the wiser of what's happened. However, Tracy wakes up and is immediately like, "Wow, I had a terrible dream that I was being hurt by people in a hospital or something." So she kind of knows something's up subconsciously, I guess. Browning is there. He kind of comforts her. And then he says he's going to go now and he's going to look around while Duffy's not around because, obviously Duffy's going to stop them from seeing anything that they need. Tracy insists on joining him. The timeline wasn't clear here. If she woke up and they woke up, it's in the morning. But it's like in the night, apparently, still. So I guess they fell asleep. They had a few hours out and they've gone back in and it's still only 2 a.m. or something. I don't know. I'll throw in here the weird red suits are kind of like radiation suits, which is, I guess, common in Fallout movies, right? Radiation suits.
Oh, the red ones. Yeah.
Let's throw that in. That's aesthetic. Let's throw it in, maybe. So Tracy and Browning are now underground somewhere. They're sneaking around. They pass a bunch of 400 model robots, and we're told they're programmed not to stop them, so they can just keep walking and ignore them. So they start walking around the tunnels. I think that kind of plays into synth gen models as well, of them improving and being better later on. These ones, they look like people, but they're just dumb idiots. They just do their job and they don't care. Browning has picked up a map from somewhere. He's fumbling it around. They make their way to the research area. This is where the guy with the perm from earlier is tailing them. I think he's got a perm. It's just a tight curly hair. It just looked very 70s. Browning, he knows something is up, right? That's why he's investigating, but he doesn't know what he's looking for. So he's just kind of mucking around with buttons and computers and stuff. And eventually something activates and there's like a white room, like a tank, like a water tank that's got no water in it. But it's suddenly 3 samurai-looking guys materialize in the tank, and they climb out and they start chasing Browning and Tracy. The robots stop mid-attack because the guy with the perm shows up and he kind of helps them out. So I'm guessing he turned them off there. He helps them escape from Schneider as well and security as they show up. He kind of says to them that, like, I just don't want to see people get hurt. I don't care what you're doing. I don't necessarily like you because I know that you're reporters and stuff, and I don't want to lose my job. They kind of convince him to maybe give an interview to Tracy in the future, and he's like, oh, okay, great. And then they start chatting, and then they mention his old buddy Frenchie, and that's before they can ask him about Frenchie, Schneider shows up with his security, and they kind of move them away. And so they're pretending like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. We're just going to move you back. They're not currently doing anything aggressive or violent. They're just trying to tell him, hey, it's not safe. You probably shouldn't be down here with this guy. This guy's called Croft, by the way. Croft also has a friend called Clark. Clark is a robot without a face. And he also mentions that.
Well, you develop a taste for the iron after a while. It's good.
And I'm guessing is it implied that he's maybe sleeping with his robot buddy Clark? I don't know.
Oh, I didn't really get that. No,
it's fun. It is maybe a little subtle, but it's just the way that they kind of talk and the way they look.
Yeah, maybe
stuff.
that is the case.
I don't know. I'm not getting many. It's funny, I'm not getting any kind of Fallout kind of great points for this point at the moment, because there's a point where they're climbing around the labs. There's not a lot I can see aesthetically. Like, these samurai guys appear, like these samurai robots, and by the way, they are white guys in makeup, which is pretty gross.
Are they actually? Oh my gosh.
They absolutely are.
Oh no, I didn't realise that.
I think they're just their stunt guys, and they were like, great, let's put some makeup on you. Yeah, I'm nice. It's funny, like, I'm not getting a lot until there is something about Croft that is really. So Croft is the guy with the perm. He is really NPC. Like, he is just there. He gives lines of dialogue. You don't want to fight him. You've got to convince him to do something, right? With like a little bit of a dialogue check or whatever. So I feel like he's very NPC, Croft.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I didn't get like a strong NPC vibe from him, but of the ones that we've got here, I think
Clutching at straws.
You can throw it in for now.
Okay. Okay. So we're back now at Tracy and Browning's kind of Futureworld apartment where they're staying here. Browning explains to Tracy that Frenchie was carrying with him a bunch of newspaper clippings regarding like world leaders and delegates and people who have visited Delos, and then he's convinced that they've been captured or something's happened. And he's trying to put it all together. But these people, Frenchie knew something was up. These people all visited Delos. What's next? I think we can, at this point, we can piece it together that the idea is that they've all been replaced with duplicates, right? I think about this point, I don't think we're waiting for the reveal or the twist. We're like, obviously they've been replaced by robots. These human-like robots, and there's meant to be something suspicious happening. We're also seeing a bit more like technology and filler here, because Duffy's shows up and he takes them back on tour. And he shows them to, I think it's got a bit of plot relevance. He shows them to a machine where, like, it can read minds. And the machine. Are you familiar with Cerebro in X-Men?
Yeah.
It looks exactly like that, right? It's just like a metal thing hanging over nothing. And then there's a seat where you sit there and you get strapped in and something happens. But basically, Tracy, they read her mind and her dreams. And in the dreams, she sees Yul Brynner saving her from guys in radiation suits by shooting them and killing them, and then she sleeps with him. It's just like, I think it's used for plot in as much as it's showing you that they can read minds, right? They can read your thoughts and they can do stuff with them. They can record them. So if they're creating a duplicate, okay, we've got your thoughts. We know how you think. We can literally read your mind with this machine. So I'm guessing it's kind of for that, but it's also just like 5 minutes of nothing, just to kind of show you that, really.
Yeah, I think it's mainly to set up, something in the conclusion where, it will become difficult to identify. It's not just that they're copying the look of someone, but their memories, etc. So
memories and behavior to stop things from being suspicious. Browning, during this, sneaks off to find Croft again. And he asks him about Frenchie, because they kind of got cut off before they could talk about it before. He shows him the photo of Frenchie dead, and he didn't know he was dead, which is kind of a little sad, I guess, because he was just like, I didn't know he's dead, what happened? Croft shows Browning then a locked door. He's like, let me show you something. And it's a locked big door. I think it's where they're doing secret, duplicate stuff. They see some 700 models going into that room. 700 models being the model 700 robots, not 700 models. Going into the room, they see the entry code. They then go and try and use the entry code they saw. It doesn't work. Croft figures out it's because the code needs to be combined with some robot eyes or something. So they throw a bucket of water over a robot and shiv him with a screwdriver in the back. They then take off its face plate with the eyes, and I guess we're going to use that in a bit. Anything before I move on?
Yeah. So there was a few little things here. One was the memory machine reminded me of the memory den in Fallout 4.
Didn't even think about that until you mentioned it.
Yeah. So I think that it's very similar in the way it's depicted. And then obviously we had the white lab coats shown quite early on, but I think by this point in the film, they were very much giving me the Institute, with the...
Or Vault-Tec, either way, really.
I was thinking specifically Institute, just because within Vault-Tec you've got scientists that sort of work within the vaults, and they have the lab coats. But I think given the fact that these guys are in charge of synths, are wearing white lab coats, kind of underground secret operations. So in multiple ways they were giving me the Institute. I think that's it.
Sweet. That's under. Is that aesthetic for the white coat or tribe for the?
I've put it under tribe, because it's specifically the faction reference.
I think I'm down with that. So the white coat control room, they kind of make their way in. They see robot versions. Oh, so and Tracy's joined them as well. I feel like I missed something here because now it's Tracy, Croft, and Browning. And they're going to kind of sneak around, and they've made their way in, and they get to the place where you had to put your code in, and they get through using the faceplate. And they also suddenly picked up 2 guns. So I feel like I missed something, or they edited something, because they picked up Tracy and guns from somewhere, which I thought was odd.
Yeah, I don't...
Do you remember where they got the guns from?
Not explicitly, no. I'm kind of looking now, but...
And the guns, they're not very Fallout.
No.
They kind of... I was trying to look up the guns. They're not on the Internet Movie Firearm Database. I can tell you that.
Is that a thing?
It's a thing. It's not on the Internet Movie Firearm Database.
Wow.
But I looked up World War II guns, and they kind of look like Mausers, which are like those...
Yeah. Little hound guns, aren't they? Sort of
they're like pistols, and then they've got the magazine with a big block underneath them. These are bigger kind of very plastic looking ones, but they've picked those up from somewhere. So great. So they make their way into the room. They start sneaking around and looking through windows, and they see that there's robot versions of Tamaguchi, the Russian general, and then they also see versions of Tracy and Browning, and they're all in there with the white lab coat guys. The plot is kind of thickening here. Browning realizes now that the people in French's clippings have all been replaced by duplicates. So once they visited Delos, the trio here then decide to get the next plane out of here. So they all kind of go back to their places and start packing. Tracy is upstairs. Browning is trying to make a phone call. They're not sure about Duffy, but Duffy shows up with a gun. He tells Browning why he's doing this. It kind of just glossed over my brain. I'm not sure why they're doing it. If it's got something to do with Delos, or if it's got to do with world domination, not clear.
It's just general corporation trying to take control. I kind of almost see it like lobbying by a corporation, except in this case it's like rather than having to lobby someone, you just replace them and they do your bidding basically.
It was a little. It wasn't even hand wavy. It was just like, cool, is that a good enough explanation? Yeah, it's fine. While he's doing this, they're waiting for Tracy because Browning tells the Duffy that Tracy's out, she'll be back soon. She's actually upstairs and she throws something at him, and there's a little bit of a fight. Tracy gets the gun, shoots him a couple of times, and he dies. If it wasn't clear, Browning then says, gets a little penknife out and starts chopping off his face to show that he's a robot because he suspects he's a robot. I think we knew this by now, but I guess they didn't really realize. But yeah, they kind of cut off his face and they show he's a robot. And they said, let's go to Westworld so we can hide there until it's time to escape. I think Browning then says he's going to go get Croft, so you go there and I'll meet you there. Is it quite Institute, the plot here, do we think? Like you're saying, it's very corporate, but when I'm thinking about the Institute, they're like, no, we're doing this for the Wasteland. We're trying to help you. We're not doing it for any other means. Whereas I think the Enclave is a little more kind of far right, kind of. We want to shape the world in our image and what we want.
What did you feel this was?
This was it was sort of institute-ish, right? But there was no necessarily explicit capitalist or even ethno-nationalist behind it, because it's just about the robots, right? So it was kind of between the two.
Yeah, I think plot-wise, I don't think it relates to the faction. So, like, I would say the Institute reference is purely, like, at a high level, you know, you've got a bunch of white lab coats that are overseeing robots, but in terms of ideology, no, it's just like it's standard sort of corporate reasons why they're doing this, really. It's just... Well,
then it's a bit more, I guess it's more... But then is it not Robco and Voltec?
Yeah, I think it was giving me a little bit of that, especially with, like, some of the stuff that they touch on in the TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of, you know, Mr. House type stuff where it's like, yeah, you're just trying to control politics, etc. So I think it's separate to the Institute point. I think the Institute point is like almost an aesthetic thing, but it fits in with tribes. Whereas the Robco element is like a plot thing. It's a genre thing of, like, you know, the reasons why they're doing this relate more to like a Robco or a Mr. House or something like that.
Yeah. Humanity is... Synths are about helping humanity through their means, whereas Robco, I think, and Voltec is more about humanity controlling it, and it's secondary to their control and their power and what they want, which is kind of an interesting mix of the robots try to help but maybe don't go about the right way, and Voltec and I guess the Enclave are more about, like, no, we just also
it's like ideology.
Yeah, it's more like that. So Croft, he's back at his digs and he's trying to pack, and he says goodbye to his robot companion Clark. Clark has no face, but he's clearly sad, which I thought was interesting. He's an older model as well. He's a 400 model or something. And there's also a point earlier where they're gambling, they're playing like poker, just Clark and Croft, the robot Clark and Croft. And Croft disappears and he goes, "Don't look at those cards." And Clark then looks at those cards afterwards. So it's interesting how there is something here going on about robots lying and being more than what they are programmed to do.
Yeah, I quite liked that. It was quite a subtle way of doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting, I thought. But it could also just be there for jokes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's true.
Where it was just the character's like, "Don't you look at those cards?" And he looks at those cards. You know, I don't know if that was it. So Croft is found by Browning, but psych, it's not really Browning, it's Robo Browning. He stabs him in the gut, which is pretty horrible. Browning sees this and he runs off, and the Robo Browning is then in a slow pursuit. We're now back at Westworld, and something similar is happening with Tracy. We have Tracy and Robo Tracy, and because they're in Westworld, it's kind of a showdown, which I thought was interesting, because they've both got guns and they're both talking, and then Robo Tracy reveals that, "Look, we scanned your mind when we duplicated you. So I've got your memories. I know how you think. So whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking. So that's why I knew to find you here," etc., etc. There is a bit of a draw, and one of the Tracys shoots the other Tracy. There's a hold for a second, and the surviving Tracy just then walks off. So it was kind of cold. She kind of walked off cold. There was no like, "Oh, sweet Lord, oh goodness." It was just like, well, I won. Something similar is kind of happening with Browning. They're getting chased around the laboratory pipes. They're both shooting. Again, they mentioned, like, "We've got your memories." And so he kind of says, I know that we're both lousy shots. Do you not remember your drill sergeant in your basic training yelling at you? And he also says, like, "And we're both afraid of heights. You know, be careful." And I thought, like, is the robot afraid of heights? Wouldn't you just improve that? Like, I get it, like, if you're trying to make him just like him. But he knows he's a robot. So he should be able to turn that on and turn that off, right? Like, if he's in kill mode and he's duplicating the world's worst shot, you'd think they'd be like, "Okay, you can override that when you're in kill mode, right? You know, you can actually shoot something."
Yeah, and if they were like exact replicas with flaws and everything, I feel like that would negate the point almost of the corporation trying to take over politicians, etc., because then you're not controlling them. They're just the same flawed people. So,
but like flaws also contribute to personality and humanity, and so it's kind of like, why are you adding them if they're not doing anything? And then I guess also it would also be like, these weaknesses are also my strengths. You have that kind of narrative as a human that you kind of tell yourself in many ways.
I think
so it's like if you're giving them, wouldn't like Robo Browning sympathize with Browning? Maybe, I don't know, but
I feel like you're right though in the saying that they would just turn it on and off, right? Like you use it for the purpose of blending in, but you'd be like, obviously I'm not scared of heights, but
Browning tries to set a trap for his duplicate by trying to electrocute the walkway to kind of kill him, but Robo Browning kind of susses it out. There's a chase. They both Browning runs out of bullets, and so Robo Browning is chasing him still. Evil Browning then corners him on like the runway. They now find themselves into the rocket room where they have the vault door and like the big fake rocket launch and stuff, and they're climbing around up high there. Evil Browning runs out of ammo, and I like how he then turns the gun upside down without thinking, because it's just like, immediately I'm going to bludgeon you to death. Like he doesn't go, oh no, if I'm out of bullets, he's just like, I'm a robot, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to bludgeon you. And I just thought that was a little funny little touch that he had there. The two Brownings then have a little fight up high. One of the Brownings kicks the other off and falls down and is dead. The surviving Browning, because we don't know which one is which, just kind of stares for a second and then walks off. Interesting. Very cool.
I feel like that's with both the conclusions, right? They deliberately direct the actors to have this kind of very neutral expression so that it leaves ambiguity.
Yeah, that's it. So after the fight, Browning and Tracy bump into each other. They kind of have a moment where they look at each other, and I think you're supposed to be thinking, are they both duplicates? Is one a duplicate and not the other? And they're trying to figure it out for a moment, which I think was kind of effective. I think there was a moment where I'm thinking, have they sussed it out? Are they going to kill the other one? Anyway, so they make it to the plane because they have to get back to the real world, whether they are duplicates or not. That is the plan. They bump into Dr. Schneider. He's satisfied that they're both duplicates. But suddenly, as they leave, along comes Robot Tracy. She stumbles in from off screen and she collapses. She tells them they're both the wrong ones, and she stops and dies. The real Tracy and Browning have survived and are boarding their flights. Schneider's a bit mad, and I think we get a bit of dialogue about how Browning has called his editor and has told him everything and so on. So everything's good. We're going to reveal the plot and everything. All's good, end of movie, that's it. Happy ending. It was kind of abrupt at the end, like it was building and then just done. It was just like, great, we're getting on the flight. There was no follow-up, no nothing like that. You called your editor? Yeah.
There was something that, just as you were describing the plot towards the end of the film, that made me think of a point, and it's a very kind of meta point. I don't know if it would count or not, or if you feel like it's strong enough, but the movie does feel like it's a bit on rails in the same way that a lot of Fallout quests and things are, like in the sense that everything is a very deliberate.
You're predicting it, right? As you're watching it.
Yeah, you're predicting as you're watching it, and like everything's very mechanical, and not in some kind of like clever, like, all mechanical because robots, like, the like we were saying, that in both the showdowns, the actors are very specifically directed to react neutrally, so that for the audience, it's left vague, and it technically works in terms of, yes, like we're not certain, but you can just see the strings pulling. And I feel like that's what Bethesda games are like a lot of the times, is like the quests and things and the gameplay, and the physics of the game even are very much on rails. Like it's kind of like the NPC has to walk to this spot to like until they get to that spot, they won't trigger the dialogue. It's like little things like that. So it was at a very vague point of like, it just feels like on rails in the same way that a Fallout game can sometimes feel on rails.
They can't walk and talk. They have to walk, stop, turn to face you, and then they talk. Yeah. I'd agree with that. I think I don't know where to put it. It's aesthetic. It's an aesthetic. because I think it's a way that you when you're playing the game you experience it. I think it's definitely an aesthetic in terms of how it's written. I don't think it's not environment, it's not like lore based, it's not genre. It is just an aesthetic that is very Bethesda, I think. I can also throw in, just during these showdowns, as mentioned previously, art synth. You find art and the other art, one's got a gun drawn on the other, and it's kind of what's happening here, right? It's like if a third person walked in and saw Tracy and Tracy, they would both be trying to convince the other person that they're the other guy's the duplicate, right? They'd be like, no, they're the duplicate. No, they're the duplicate. Help, right? That's kind of what would happen. So I think I want to throw that random encounter in, I think, as well. I guess that's a tribe partner as a character. So let's try and hammer down this great score for Futureworld. So let's cover it. What have we got? Tell me about it.
All right, so genre, right now we've got corporate influence of politicians like Rob Coe, Mr. House. So yeah, from a plot point of view, did you have anything else that you wanted to add in to genre? I think I had.
I guess the whole synth replacing real people element. That's literally what's happening in the Wasteland in Fallout 4. You go to, like, you know, when you're in Fallout and you start a settlement somewhere, and then just randomly there's things where you can kill some of the characters that were NPCs, and then they'll suddenly have synth components, and it happens like at one point they do and one point they don't. So the idea is a proper mechanic there of it, mechanism, a plot mechanism, I think, of replacing like duplicates and stuff. So, and paranoia of that, I guess. So I think genre-wise I'm going to throw that in.
I think my other point I would just fold into the first point, because it wasn't super strong, but it was just that the setup, of a corporation setting up even reopening a resort for robots for human entertainment is very Fallout. Just in terms of, like how the vaults operate, and it's almost like an experiment, but also how you'd have casinos in New Vegas that, you've got Gamora that sort of facilitates your every, desire, etc., that kind of thing. So I don't know, do you think that folds in with the sort of corporate influence thing, or is that a separate point? How do you feel about that? Or is it even strong enough?
I think you're right in that the future is your every whim is catered for. And so I think it's I think it's a genre, because it's a sci-fi thing, right? And it's almost a dystopian thing, because it's never actually what it promises to be, right? Like, it is like the future is technology, and the future is it's not Star Trek, or it's post-scarcity. It is still strongly capitalism, where you can buy what you want, right? Yeah. It's not post-scarcity where we have replicators on every street corner or whatever, and you can just get whatever food you want and it doesn't cost anything. It's not that. It is, you will, whatever your whim is, we can sell it to you or whatever, and that's kind of the idea. So I think genre, it's dystopian future, I think, and I think it's very explicitly so, in as much as you can get this, and it's a bit sordid, and also the fact that they mention, again, it's either $1,200 or $12,000 a day, they say, is what it costs to be there. So it's not for everyone, right? It is very much the elite and exploitation to a certain extent there.
What, we'll have a coupon day or something.
What about corporate influence of politicians like Rob Coe and Mr. House? Is that strong enough? I feel like it's a little vague, but
it is. But there's a genre there, right? Like, it is. Even if it wasn't the corporate influence, it would still be. I'm trying to think of the genre of the word. It would still be like a war movie where you're trying to infiltrate or influence.
It's almost like Red Scare kind of thing, in a way.
Yeah,
right? Like communists kind of coming in and influencing.
Yeah, and I think that's very indicative of the era.
So
considering
maybe we'd say like Insidious influence.
Yeah. And it's not even about money. That's the thing, right? That's kind of the point, is that it's not about Delos making money. It's about the control and the influence that they have. And so, again, they're influencing people with money, but it's not about that with the Delos entourage or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Random specifics. We've got the monorail, which I think is quite a distinct.
Yeah. I think they're a bit of a throwback, and I think that's very specific to the 50s through 70s or whatever. So I would definitely agree with monorails.
We've got the memory den in Fallout 4, which I think is pretty direct.
Can I throw something in?
Mm-hmm.
When they're on the fake space station, and then later when they're back at their apartment, there's mini bars, like bars everywhere. That's such a... Think about when you're in the wasteland and you go into a home, does it have a little mini bar? Its own little bar. How many of those prop up? It's a point that when you're building a location, if you're in a settlement and you're building, you can build a bar. You know what I mean? Like, there's such an era of... There's something about, like, of course there's a bar.
I don't know. I don't know if that doesn't jump out to me as Fallout specific.
Sensitive. Well, that's true. Not Fallout specific, but it's era specific. Of they're always drinking. Like, it could have been like they could have always been smoking if it was a bit earlier. Still, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. When I see, of course, it's a scene and people are just getting drinks. I'm at a little mini bar. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like that's it. But okay, I can sit on that one.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit too generic.
Yeah,
but I definitely get the point. What else? I had the way Futureworld backstage works feels a lot like a Vault Tech or Vault experiment.
You need to pad that one out for me.
So, in each of the vaults, you've got what the vault dwellers think is going on.
Yeah,
they're just sort of existing and surviving the post-apocalypse, versus the experiment that Vault Tech has in mind for that vault, and potentially you might have vault overseers that are sort of facilitating that experiment, unbeknownst to the dwellers.
It's such a... You know what? No, I'm going to say no. Purely because it's such a big operation. And with when you're doing it in a vault with an overseer, it always feels like it's slyer and quieter. Like, people aren't aware of this, but there's basically the ratio is reversed. There's four guests that's being impacted here, and then there's like 200 robot technicians.
I agree, but I think there's a hidden element that you don't actually see in Fallout that is definitely going on, which is that pre-war Vault Tech designed those experiments, and so at that point it is a big corporate operation. It's just that the bit that we're seeing of it is the part where it's just being executed and overseen by the 1% within the vault. But it was a big operation to begin with. To have set that up initially, it would have been a bureaucratic process involving the implementation of a specific vault having specific technology, or a selection process, whether it's like people being cryogenically frozen in some cases. In other cases it's like selecting 1,000 men and only one woman, and vice versa. Like those sort of vaults exist. So I would say that you just don't see the larger operation in the games, but it exists.
Go on then, you convinced me.
So
and then it's random specific, right?
I think vaguely this kind of connects, I think, to something that you had for environment. So maybe this is the one and the same thing. I had like underground subway type exploration, but I think that was the bit where you go underneath Westworld, and like you were referring to, like the boiler room. So I think that combines there.
Yeah, that's environment rather than anything else, I'd say. But you're right. It is underground exploration, but it's underground structure.
Yeah,
investigation. Yeah. Non-vault parentheses.
Okay. Anything else for random specifics?
Nothing else from me. No.
Environment. So I kind of collected these all together because I don't think they're distinct by themselves. But the offices, conference rooms, and then I also had like the control room is all very pre-war Fallout.
Yeah, you're expecting to walk into that and it's a wreck. Like those exist as ruins somewhere in Fallout. Yeah.
So that all combined together, and then like we said, sort of underground.
They're more specific to explore, I'd say. Yeah. Like there is a point where those boiler room kind of corridors will lead to a control room, but it also leads to other places, and I think it's very specific. So I feel like two distinct things.
At Westworld as Good Springs in New Vegas. And I think that's it. Did you have anything else for environment?
No, I think those work for me. It is. You're right. It's very Good Springs as well at the Westworld.
All right, aesthetics. We've got a few in here. Some strong, some not so. I think spacesuits ? What do you think?
No, they're 280s.
Yeah. Agreed. Vault door opening aesthetic. I feel like they lingered on it enough for me. I was going
to say it was impressive enough.
Yeah, I think it was like a moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't move in the right direction, but I think it's an impressive enough thing. Yeah, I'd say.
You had Robco green text on screens.
Yeah, it was a small thing. I think it's also era appropriate, but also they didn't have the imagination to think that it could be anything but that. So I would keep it black text, green text on black screen. Yeah.
Red suits like radiation suits.
I think they look like radiation suits.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think the color is not too relevant. I think.
Yeah. And even there's no radiation, it's still contamination, I think is the idea.
Yeah, and then I had, the film feels on rails like a Bethesda game.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a fun point.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, and then so for tribes, final category, we've got synths.
Yeah.
And we've got synths with gen models, which I think could be separate, right? Because like you could have another film where you have robots that look like humans or androids. Yeah. That could be described as synths, but here specifically you've got the different generations as well.
They've made a point of it. There's 400 models, there's 500 models, there's 700 models, and they're even saying like they talk about how much more impressive the 700s are. And I think there's even 3 models there. Like there's 4, the 5, and the 7. So that's Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. So I think so.
And then we had the guy with the hair as an NPC. I wasn't too sure on this one. I didn't feel the same thing necessarily, but I also, when you mentioned it, I kind of got it a little.
It's because of his relevance to the plot. You get things from him, and he progresses forward, and then he just dies. But you need him. You need to convince him, and he even shows up in a plot specific thing to help you out of a bit of a mission or something. So I think because of his relevance to the plot, I think he's an NPC guy. That's Croft, that guy. Also Harry. He's called Harry Croft, but sometimes they call him Harry or not. I'm calling him Croft.
Okay, great. All right, yeah. I think I'll buy it in with the way his sort of role pans out. I think that makes sense. And then art synth in Fallout 3, the kind of the showdown where you've got the
random encounter. Yeah. And I think it's a good example of synth versus synth, or synth versus non-synth, and showing you their concept. And that's kind of what's happening explicitly with Tracy and Browning, and they're kind of duplicates, right? In that we're seeing them both, and there's also an element of you don't know which is the synth and which is not, and they do that explicitly here, where one of the Browning kicks the other Browning off and they fall and die, and you don't know if they're behaving like a human or a duplicate.
Yeah. I was just going to maybe move this over to random specifics, though. It doesn't really make much of a difference, but I think it's not really it's not that it's reminiscent of the NPC
you're right.
that you come across.
I'm thinking of a specific character, but it's more of a behavior within this.
Yeah, what happens.
Yes, for in the random specifics.
And then finally, we've got the Institute. Like I was saying, the kind of the aesthetic of them and what they're in charge of, I think is specific enough for them to be referenced as the Institute, regardless of like their ideological reasoning.
Yeah, the fact that it's not that it is an organization rather than just one scientist or anything like that. It's there's a whole structure around it, and they'll have different functions within it. So I think so.
I actually had one more as well that I didn't have in here, which I think does count, is sex bots. So it made me think of Fisto in, I think, Fallout 3, I want to say. I think
this is the second time you've brought up Fisto.
I know, yeah. Fisto is becoming a regular on the podcast. It's actually one of my favorite NPC characters in Fallout, I think, actually.
Do we need do we need a jingle?
yeah, maybe. Let's find one. But yeah, I think the sex bots are like mentioned enough times, and it's something that specifically exists, especially through a specific character in Fallout. So yeah, unless you've got an objection, I was gonna.
No, I'd say throw it in.
Sweet. All right. Anything else in Tribes?
Nothing else in Tribes. Before we get on to debuff, let's just recap real quick. So that's 3 for genre, 4 for random specifics, 3 for environment, 4 for aesthetics, 5 for Tribes. So that's 19, which is pretty healthy.
That's a lot better than what I was thinking during the film. I think I had about 12 of my own points.
Yeah, I didn't get many. I usually have notes all over, and I'm like, I didn't have any on here. Debuffs. Anything from you? That wasn't very Fallout. I think I mentioned earlier, and I'm not going to die on the hill, but I didn't like the sexual politics of the game of the movie.
Yeah,
but it's 2 characters with a history more than anything else. And maybe that's just their personal history, but it's the only it's a man talking to a woman, and then there's only ever one woman, and she's an older woman who's convinced she shouldn't be having sex with a robot.
Yeah,
and that's the only other woman I think in the entire movie. So it's hard to gauge the sexual politics necessarily, but I felt like it was just a bit. You're a woman and you need me, Mr. Man.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, I think it's more of a passive thing that is.
It wasn't a message.
Yeah. And I think had it been, I'd definitely lean in favor of that, because I think, like we were saying, it's those sort of things aren't really explicitly explored within Fallout. It's usually left to some kind of like allegory. No, I don't. I think otherwise, I can't think of a debuff really. Like, I think the only thing I would mention is not really a Fallout specific thing. I think it's just, and in fact, like with Fallout, you can play however you want. Maybe it's even a point in favor of it. I don't know. It's just the main character, our journalist, is just the most antithesis of like a normal hero that you'd get in these kind of films. He's not an all-action guy. He's a bit of a nerd, right? Like, he's a bit of a geek, and it almost kind of the showdown in the, like you were saying, scared of heights and not being a good shot is almost used in his favor in that final showdown.
Yeah. Well, I will say, character-wise, yes, but it does mean that that's the way they balance their special. Yeah,
exactly. That's the thing. I think it doesn't actually end up being a debuff. I think it ends up being like almost a point in favor of, but not quite.
He's got it in intelligence. He's got it in charisma. He's low on agility, low on.
I don't know about charisma, but
well, he's risen up to certain people. Well, he's convincing people of certain things. Let's put it that way. So even if he's not written with charisma, he's still convincing people. But then maybe he's got a bit of perception because his robot also has perception.
Maybe that's what we should do in future. Actually, is main characters' special stats what we think they are.
We should give them however many points you get straight out of the vault.
Yeah.
Could do it that way.
We allocate them. All right, cool.
So that's 19 points. So that puts it right now. This is episode 11. So as of now, 19 points puts it in position 6 in terms of the most Fallout movies. That's below Tank Girl, but above The Bad Batch.
Yeah, I think maybe in between those films sounds about right. I feel like 19 definitely felt high for it. But
yeah, surprisingly high.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so that was the movie from the Fallout perspective. Generally, how did you feel about the movie?
It's a grower for me. Like I say, like I was watching it and I was kind of annoyed and bored at points. I feel like it was Sugar. What year was Star Wars?
78, 9, something like that.
It definitely feels pre-Star Wars, in terms of sci-fi, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 77 was Star Wars.
It still kind of has that in terms of like special effects and the fact that it's about taking time to show you special effects that we can do.
Yeah.
I think post Star Wars, it was like, no, it's just part of this, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's laced into the narrative. The laser guns are part of it, right? The lightsaber is part of it. We're not just going to show you a guy juggling lightsabers, right? Like just to show you how cool it is. It's they use it's weaved into the kind of the plot and the narrative and the story or whatever. And for this, it kind of takes time for it. So those kind of things kind of bother me a little bit. And again, like the fact that it's so annoyingly telegraphed, like a Bethesda, like you say, like it's on rails, it bothered me. And I really didn't like Browning, but there's something about him also that I did kind of like later on. And I quite like Croft. I like Croft, the engineer. So there are characters that won me over, and I liked his relationship. It seemed progressive for the 70s, and I think I maybe I'm overthinking it. That he, along with Frenchie, got a taste for iron, as they said, right? And it's an allegory for something else, of like whether it be homosexuality or I don't know, what do they call it? Like when white men slept with black women, they got jungle fever or something fucking distasteful or something horrible like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was trying to be progressive, and so there's points that I kind of liked, but I'm kind of meeting it more than halfway, I think, at times. It definitely felt like half-baked and sold for, they were trying to still sell it to make money off the back of the success of Westworld. So yeah, not too hot on it. I there's things I like, but I think if I'm ranking it letterbox style, I think it's a 2.5 star.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly where I'm at. I was hovering at a 3 at one point, but I think like you said, it was a bit of a grower in the first half. I was kind of bored. I found it a little dull, and I think then as even though it's telegraphed, as the mystery and the intrigue kind of unfolds, I kind of appreciated where it went with it. Like it kind of went in a slightly different direction to what the first movie did, more into this kind of government secrets, corporate espionage type thing. So I kind of appreciated that as much as none of it really surprised or had any impact. So that was kind of pulling it up, but I think ultimately it's a little bit like the execution of it is very meh. It's very, not even janky, it's just kind of plain in its execution and its style. Like when it comes to the action, when it comes to the showdown, it's all a little bit, it's a little lame, but
yeah.
But I kind of appreciated what it was going for and the direction that it went in enough to for it to not drag down too much. So it's a 2.5 for me as well, out of 5.
2.5 all around. So you got a question for me?
Yes. If you were to mod Futureworld into Fallout, how would you go about it? You can
I struggled because the characters weren't characters that I wanted to see. There was nothing particularly interesting. There's the guns, like I say, of like they weren't particularly interesting. They kind of exploded and sparked a little. So what I settled on was just a little quirky mechanism, which is, so there's a point where Duffy is killed and Browning pulls out Chuck Browning, he pulls out his little penknife and he starts cutting off the face, right? He cuts around the face and it's a nice neat shape and he pulls off to show it's a faceplate. He's a robot. I like the idea of in Fallout 4 where you're supposedly, I think we spoke earlier, you're meant to be paranoid but you're not, but you're supposedly paranoid and maybe you can find a synth component inside when you kill somebody. My thought is it's a mod where if you have a knife equipped and you kill a human, you can hold X to carve up face. You basically either reveal, you carve up the face and it's a synth face underneath, or you carve up the face and it's just gore. That's what I'm thinking. So it's just
cool. Yeah,
a little bonus of just like, and it's basically just qualified by if there's a synth component. Like I guess it's like no, that we remove that and we instead add a synth face underneath. So that was kind of my thought of that's all I could get from it. Is like okay, we'll have the face carving.
I like that. Yeah.
What are you doing for it? What are you modding?
Well, I think part of this comes from the fact that, you know, what we were talking about with the Institute plot in Fallout 4 and it being a little bit underwhelming in terms of its impact. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't really feel the paranoia. I was just thinking of like more of a direct way in which you could just... I would want a bigger expansion, basically, that, you know, focuses on synths, but maybe almost just taking the concept of, you know, Westworld, future world, and applying it into Fallout, kind of merging it with, you know, what you get in New Vegas with the, you know, casinos that are kind of designed to fulfill some aspect of your pleasure. So I'd have it as like a full expansion. Your character, but in a similar way that you end up in Nuka World, you know, you end up in in that case, an amusement park. In this case, something that someone's designed using synths to create a kind of amusement type experience for your character or for other NPCs. But within that, then
you can just go to Nuka World and how about this? Can I meet you halfway?
Hit me.
Nuka World, so it's full of raiders and it's got all the different raider factions in the different worlds. But every character, every raider, there's a 50% chance that they are a synth. And if they're a synth, there's a 20% chance they'll be hostile. Does that work with paranoia at all? So when you meet a character... It's a dice, you know, so it's rolling the dice or a coin flip as to whether or not they might attack you. And that's going to be, it's more for me, if you can't get the paranoia, could you get the frustration?
Yeah.
In that you're midway through a mission, you're talking to a character. Great, okay, he's told me to go over here. And then he just starts shooting you. And you're like, God damn it, I'm never going to figure this out. I needed to get something from this guy or talk to this guy. I don't know. That was trying to me, because I'm trying to think like if you had to build a mod, and it was in a whole immersive world. I'm trying to think that you got to pad that out, but could you just add an immersive element where it's random?
I think it's a good shout. Like it would be. It
requires less writing.
Yeah,
if every character just had that. Basically, it's 50-50, and then after that, it's, I don't know, 25% chance of them attacking you.
Yeah, exactly. I think you use that sandbox environment of a Westworld to explore some of the themes that, you know, exist in... I realise I'm leaning more into Westworld here than Futureworld, but lean some of the themes there, but also some of the espionage replacement stuff. But yeah, combined with like a gameplay mechanic that like you're suggesting, I think, to just create that element of uncertainty, let's say. But yeah, I'd go full on expansion.
Okay. So I chose Futureworld. LJ, what are we watching next time?
I didn't have a strong choice going into it. So I've kind of just been looking through the list, and I was thinking, this is potentially the final episode of the season.
Yeah, we've not really spoken about.
Yes,
we've not mentioned it before that we're going to do this seasonally. So we're going to do 12 eps, week or two off maybe, and then 12 eps, a little bit of a break, and then whatever we're doing, that kind of thing. We're doing a kind of a seasonal approach. But what do we think? What's the last of the season?
I'm going with something that is tied to some of Fallout's core plot elements, nuclear warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a kind of serious film, one of our longer ones. Kind of well regarded.
You're making this thinner and thinner, like what the movie could be. Carry on, sorry.
The Hunt for Red October.
Ooh.
Very different to anything we've had so far.
A Jack Ryan movie. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Is Jack Ryan canonically Fallout, I wonder, at the end of this? That's going to be interesting.
Could be. So it's directed by John McTiernan. Invisible, silent, stolen, a new technologically superior Soviet nuclear sub, the Red October, is heading for the US coast under the command of Captain Marco Ramius. The American government thinks Ramius is planning to attack. Lone CIA analyst Jack Ryan has a different idea. He thinks Ramius is planning to defect, but he has only a few hours to find him and prove it, because the entire Russian naval and air command are trying to find Ramius too. The hunt is on. So my thoughts are pre-war, nuclear war, Cold War type of
very very Fallout. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting, because I think it will be just very different in terms of tone, I think, with films that we've had, because it's a little bit more of a straight up serious movie, longer in runtime, so that'll be interesting.
Wait, how long is it?
It's over 2 hours.
Okay. I mean,
like 2 hours 20 minutes, which is definitely on the longer side. I think that might be the longest movie that we've had.
Yeah. I true, but I think that's partly because I keep choosing dumb short flicks. Movies where an Italian director didn't have all the footage.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, serious movie. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, have you seen this before?
I haven't. No, it's been on my list for a long time.
It's been a while. I've definitely seen it. Definitely seen it with like my parents as a kid. So
yeah, it seems like
memories of that.
Seems like that kind of movie in a way.
Yeah,
of that era.
Yeah, like that. Your parents watch it, and you're like kind of half paying attention. And you're like, so were they on a submarine? What's going on? And then you're like, wait, is that Dr. Alan Grant? That kind of thing. You're like, yes, he's playing a Russian. That kind of thing. It's going to be great fun, I think. Okay, Hunt for Red October. Looking forward to that one. Well, in that case, LJ, thank you for watching this with me. I assume it's you still. You're not some sort of duplicate. Looking forward to Hunt for the Red October next time. So from me, farewell, goodbye. And from LJ,
see ya.
See ya. On a podcast, I'll see you.
I won't. But
take care.
Bye.